Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced. Welcome to another video. We're going to be talking about a Dremio cloud. And in this video, what I want to do is talk about the sample data sets. So basically, you have some data sets that you can use to kind of practice using your Dremio cloud account. Okay, so I'm going to head over to add source. So here in your Dremio cloud account, if you had source, okay, basically we're going to see here a sample DB. That would be a sample I think it's a Postgres database, but it's a sample database with many data sets that you can run queries against. So you can see what it's like to connect to a database. So if I go in here, I see the NYC weather data set. And then also if I click over here, I see a sample source here. You see with the Dremio logo to it. This is a sample data lake source. So this is connecting to an S3 bucket with some sample data. Okay, and if I click in there, if I look in there, here in samples, I see this folder called samples.dremio.com. And in there, I can see lots of different data sets. Okay, so this is a great place to kind of get started and kind of seeing how running queries in Dremio works. So first, let's run queries here. So here we see that we have a data set, NYC weather, because basically databases are automatically tables. So it automatically gives it that little purple logo because it knows it's a table, it's a database. Okay, and I can just click on it and I can go run a query on it. Okay. And there's my query. Okay, so that ran the query on the table. And the cool thing is I could either just continue running queries from this table, okay, and that's fine. But if I wanted to turn it into an Apache Iceberg table on my data lake, I could do that pretty easily. I could just do this. I could just say create table. And we'll use our Dremio Cloud 101, Dremio Cloud 101 dot NYC weather. Okay, so I'm going to create this table, and then we're going to use the as keyword. So we're using what's called a create table as statement. So what it'll do is it'll take the results of this query and then use it to create a new Iceberg table that'll exist on our data lake. And then we get the benefits of Iceberg because it'll be an Iceberg table in our Iceberg catalog. Okay, and again, the benefit of Iceberg is one, because we're using that Arctic Nessie catalog, we're going to be able to track the different versions of the table so that we can go back to historical versions of the table, do branching. Iceberg, also its metadata allows for very efficient querying, especially if we partitioned it. Right now, I won't get into partitioning quite yet, but just to show you how easy it is to do some basic ETL work right out of here from Dremio. You can connect your different sources and use create table as statements to move one table in one source to an Iceberg table in your catalog if you prefer to run that table as Iceberg. So in here, I can just click run. Okay, and it's going to go create that table. I must have typed something wrong. No, usually I just run that again. Okay, and successful. I created a table. So now if I go over here and I click on Dremio Cloud 101, there's my NYC weather table. And I can go query that instead. Okay, so if I go back here, I can see that now in my Dremio Cloud 101 catalog, there is the NYC weather table. Okay, so just shows you that I can connect a database and really easily just move data over into an Iceberg table in my data lake using Dremio. Okay, also in these sample data sources, here we're using the samples data source, which is a data lake source. You'll see here, when you have a Iceberg table that is that was created outside of Dremio, that's sitting on your object storage, Dremio is going to look at your object storage and just see a bunch of files. What you have to do is you have to promote or format your data sets and tell Dremio, hey, this specific thing here is a table. So in this case, you see here we have this Iceberg data set that it was created. And if I look in there, I see what I would normally expect for an Iceberg table. I see a folder with the data and then a folder of metadata. Okay, that's pretty typical for an Iceberg table. So I just want to tell Dremio, just be like, just so you know, this is an Iceberg table. So I click over here and you'll see this little button that says format. Okay, so say, hey, I want to tell Dremio that this folder is a data set. Okay, and there's different ways you can format folders. So this is an Iceberg table, and you would know that if you create the table, because assuming you created the data in your data lake, I would just click Iceberg here, and it's going to recognize the data set, and I can click save. And then now I have that data set is now recognized, and I can now work with it like any other Iceberg table. Okay, with all the bells and whistles. Okay, going back to that samples data source, but again, it's not just Iceberg data sets you can work with. So for example, this NYC taxi trips folder, the one that doesn't say Iceberg with it, this is just a folder of Parquet files. But all those Parquet files really represent one data set, the taxi trips data set. So same thing, I can go all the way over here, click Format Folder, and you'll see it automatically knows that this is a folder of Parquet files and can then treat that as one single table. So I can click Save, and now this folder of Parquet files are treated like a singular data set. Okay, pretty nice. Okay, so there we go. Now that's a data set that we have access to. Let's go explore a little bit more. Okay, also from your data lake, you can access just, CSV files, JSON files, all these things are queryable. Again, it's not just Iceberg tables, but any tables in those databases and data warehouses, and pretty much CSV, XLS files, JSON files that are on your data lake, along with the Iceberg and Data.Lake tables can be read as well. Okay, the only benefit, the big benefit is if you use Iceberg, you're going to get the benefit of just the Iceberg metadata and enabling much smarter query planning. So little extra performance beyond the already fast performance that Dremio gives you. You get the versioning benefits of if you're using the Arctic catalog, you get the ability to time travel, which you can do with or without the Arctic catalog with Iceberg tables, where you can go back to particular points in time in the table. And you get full CRUD support, meaning you can create, read, update, delete Iceberg tables with any catalog or any interface on Dremio. So it just gives you that extra sort of data warehouse-like feel. Really basically turns Dremio into sort of basically allows Dremio to turn your data lake into essentially a big data warehouse. Thus the term data lakehouse. But yeah, so I can go query the CSV file here. Okay, so it'll ask me to kind of format it. Then I'll hit save. Assuming, again, I take a look at the output, make sure it looks right, and I'll say, hey, well, this is a row of titles, so I'm going to click extract column names. So it extracts the column names, and yeah, that looks good. Okay, and now that data source is available. Another thing I can do is, if you see over here, I have this new folder action, okay, in details panel. Now if I click here into one of the folders I have in my data set, I can click over here where it says the new folder. Okay, and if I click over here where I see details panel, okay, then here you can see details about the folder or data set that you're in. So in this case, I'm in a folder, so this is really my top level catalog, okay, but I can actually generate a wiki here. So I can actually provide documentation about the catalog itself. And the cool thing is there is generative AI features that are here now. And again, to turn those on, you would go to your project settings and you would go to preferences, and then you can turn on the generative AI features here. Also, you can turn off things like being able to query data set on click, copy and download results. You can turn off certain things. Now, the cool thing here is I can click Generate Wiki, and what it'll do is that Dremio will kind of scan everything that's kind of going on in that catalog or whatever that particular object is, whether it's a folder, a data set, and whatnot, and basically using generative AI, generate potential documentation that I can put there, making it much quicker and easier to kind of document your data sets, document your catalog, etc. So you see right here, it's saying, I can just literally just copy that over. Actually, I could just click this little button right here, copy that right over, hit save, and see now I have this documentation here. And see, it's explaining a lot of the folders that are in there, saving me a lot of time and being able to provide documentation to my end users so they can understand the data sets that are available to them. Okay, not only do you have the ability to do that, but you also have the ability to do that for SQL queries as well. So for example, okay, I could do something like this. I click over here, and then let's say I wanted to query that NYC weather data set. So I'll click over here, NYC weather. I'll drag and drop NYC weather and just say, hey, I want all the weather records. Okay, we'll start off with that. So I hit generate. So even if I didn't know SQL, someone could really use this, and look right there, they got the SQL and they can just run it. Okay, and then I can just run that query. And then I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I want all dates with precipitation above 1. Okay, and then I can sit there and have it generate the SQL for me. So I can ask questions and see it's going to say okay, that's what we would do. So I will copy that SQL. Okay. And then we will run that. And there we go. Okay. Although it only gave me the date, so I refined the query. So maybe this case I really wanted date. I really want all the data. I just okay. Again, generative AI is not always perfect, but again, makes it much easier for people who are not necessarily big SQL users to be able to kind of determine the SQL they want. Okay, the cool thing is you can put multiple data sets here. So if you had like a fact table with multiple dimension tables, you could drop all those data sets in here, ask the question you need, and have it generate the SQL. And then again, tweak it if you need to, but be much closer, much quicker than you need to. And that's on top of the already available sort of visual helper tools. Okay, so for example, you have like this, if you wanted to add a column without having to write the SQL yourself, there's an add a column button that'll walk you through adding a column to your table or doing a group by join. Okay, you can also right click on any field here and you can do data type conversions and things like that. So there's a lot you can do even when you're not an SQL expert, but through a very sort of clearly SQL interface. Again, this makes it really, again, the whole point is to democratize data. Not only is it easy to give data to more people, but it's easier for them to use it. Okay. And again, they can always save the results of any particular query as a view. So I can take this particular result here and I can go save it as a view. So I'll say, hey, I want to save this as a view. Okay. And I can say, hey, I want to save it in my Dremio Cloud 101 catalog. And we'll call this Dremio or weather, with precipitation over 1. Okay, I save it. And now going forward, if I need to access that view, this view will just show up as like a data set like any other one. I just don't realize that when I query it, that I'm just really running a query in the original table. Like actually, let me go back to the main page so you can really see it. I go to Dremio Cloud 101. I click on, there's the view. And again, I don't necessarily see the underlying query. I just see that there's this view that I can query. And it's going to give me, when I run the query on it, it's going to give me the data set that I need. Okay. Now, if I did want to know about that, okay, there's the details pane over here, so you can learn more about it. Okay, so I can click and open details about this data set. Okay, and you can kind of see more information about it. Okay, you can see what columns it has. You can see sort of more information about it. I can actually generate wiki just for this particular table. So I can go over here, run the generate wiki thing here. So that way there's documentation about that particular data set. There's a lot you can sort of do here. Okay, and you've seen this kind of play out before, so I'll leave it at that. Oh, it just finished. But point is, there's a lot you can do to make life a lot easier for when you're curating the data and for when you're consuming the data. And this is all from the UI. And, next step would be, hey, how do I bring this data into sort of my favorite BI tools or into a notebook or something like that? And we'll explore that sort of in the next video. So I'll see you there. Have a great one.